Okay, I am here with Eric Simon of the Broke Agent. Thanks for being on our broadcast today, Eric. And where are you broadcasting from?
Los Angeles.
Okay. And did you guys make it through the fires okay?
We did. Yeah, we were in Brentwood on the evacuation line and luckily moved that same week. We were moving to Playa Vista, so we are safe, thankfully. But a lot of my friends, unfortunately, had their house burned down and they're in an awful situation.
Yeah, my friends were in Santa Monica, right on the line there of like I think Broadway and 10th area, and they didn't have to evacuate, but they were watching the news and waiting for it. So I want to go ahead and
Start to the new year.
yeah, no doubt, right? Like last year wasn't good enough, but if you could run us through how this all got started.
The broke agent?
The broke agent, yeah.
Yes. It got started because I was a struggling, pissed off, immature real estate agent in 2014 and 15. I became the receptionist at a real estate brokerage called Hilton and Highland after I had quit my job at the Laugh Factory Comedy Club, where I was a marketing assistant. And I had no intention whatsoever of actually getting in real estate. It was just a temporary job as a receptionist, literally answering phones, doing the mail, doing some admin work for some agents, and did not want to be in real estate. My dad was in real estate. I always wanted to do something in writing or in sports or in comedy writing. And then I became a marketing assistant, got my real estate license because I met people at the brokerage and I liked all the people in real estate. I liked the personalities, the charisma, the wealth that all these agents had. It was a really boutique office in Beverly Hills, and I was just enamored with everything happening in the office. And there was so much fun content and comedy going on within it that I became a buyer's agent, got my license, and started the broke agent once I was sitting dead open houses every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday, and cold calling and door knocking to absolutely no success whatsoever. And I couldn't understand how everybody else seemed to be crushing it in real estate besides me. The only thing I saw on social media in 2015, it was a completely different time, was success, motivational quotes, newly listed, just sold posts.
Yeah.
And I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was the only person on earth that was struggling in real estate and having these awkward encounters and not picking up leads. And
Yeah.
being 25 years old, I was so uncomfortable. So I started it basically as a place of solace to release my inner anxieties and just put it out on the internet and see if anybody else felt the way that I did. And it was a way darker uh, point of view back then because everything was just so horrible
Yeah.
that was happening in my real estate life. So it picked up quickly because I found out that 87% of agents fail in the first 5 years. So there was
Yep.
a good crowd for it.
And so did you have were you doing like stand-up comedy before then?
No, I wasn't doing stand up. I was the marketing assistant at the Laugh Factory. So I loved stand up comedy and I was basically writing the copy for their social media. So I was publishing on their Facebook, on their Instagram. I don't even know if they had an Instagram actually back then, but on their Twitter, trying to get people to come to shows.
Yeah.
I would come up with the copy saying, "Hey, Dane Cook and Chris D'Elia are performing today at 5 o'clock. We're giving away, 2 free drink tickets. Click the link below to attend the Just for Laughs Tuesday event." So,
But was there an element of like comedy writing in that at all?
yeah,
Okay.
it was from the voice of the Laugh Factory, so you had to be funny. But I also had a blog at the time called the Pudgy Caddy, which was a sports blog, and then also a blog about what it was like to go out in Los Angeles as a 24-year-old post grad. So I was always writing. I was always doing sports poems that I did for a company called Bacon Sports, or I would just publish content to Facebook and get a bunch of shares based off of the humor in writing. But it was never real estate. I never cared
Yeah.
about real estate until I accidentally got into it.
And so when you were doing, you started a broke agent, what were the social media platforms did you start posting on?
Everything, thankfully. So that was one of the smartest moves that we made when the broke agent started, was having a uniform handle, which is extremely important for anybody listening to this. You want to have the same handle across TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're posting. So it was Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, with the main focus on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook and Snapchat stories, honestly, at the time too. That's how I became close with a lot of people in the industry initially, is publishing content to Snapchat, just my personality or putting on filters and doing all these real estate characters, which kind of ended up translating to Instagram stories down the road.
And so when you're as you're doing this, when did you know that okay, this thing is becoming big, it's becoming, a viral entity? What was the realization there?
Spoke at an Inman conference in 2016. That was kind of seeing the reaction, not what I was talking about, because what I was talking about made absolutely no sense. I had no direction as to where it was going. It was just a fun, cool kind of side project at the time. It was never, hey, this is
Yeah.
going to become a media company. I always had that in the back of my mind, but it was more just, this is really fun. This is cool. This is something that I want to continue doing. And seeing the feedback at real estate conferences is what kind of gave me that confidence. Because when you're just publishing content behind a computer or on Instagram and seeing comments, it doesn't really mean much, right? It feels good. It's a good dopamine hit when you see the engagement. But when I actually saw people in person who were giving me that encouragement saying, hey, this is really cool. Like this did not exist before in the real estate space. Keep going. Do stuff on YouTube, do podcast stuff like that. That's what really gave me that encouragement. So there wasn't really a moment. It was more the motivation from seeing people in person.
Okay. And so when you're doing this, I could see like two different paths, and I'm curious at which path you decided to go down in the sense of like, is this going to be something that you're going to use to get customers to sell real estate, or to kind of go down the media, a media company for real estate agents?
Yeah, well, that path kind of decided itself because when you call yourself the broke agent and you post about how incompetent you are as a real estate agent, you're not going to get much business. The one thing it did for me was all my friends, instead of me being obnoxious on social media about being an actual real estate agent, started following the broke agent and would actually reach out to me to, represent them. All my clients were basically first-time home buyers, my friends buying condos and homes here in Los Angeles. But I always wanted to differentiate them because I knew the second if I started to funnel leads or promote my own real estate business with this brand, that it would completely take away from it. That's not what people wanted to see. People wanted to
Yeah.
go to the page and see. And also, by the way, the audience that I built was all other real estate agents. So the only thing that I would get from it is referrals, which could be an amazing source of business, of course. But if you are a potential client in Los Angeles and you follow the broke agent and you see me posting about not knowing what's happening at an inspection, why would you use me? Right. So basically, it took away from my real estate business. Probably the worst thing I could have done, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm here now, right?
Right. It
Go
worked
tell
out.
them.
And what's interesting is when I was a producing agent, I would put out content for my company, Spyglass Realty, and it was, tips on buying and on selling and all that. And now my audience is exclusively when I got out of production, like my whole really the purpose of this, I don't really say it that much, but it's to recruit people to my brokerage. Now that we've joined real brokerage, it's to possibly build relationships to grow that in some respects. And I've found that a little bit difficult to come up with different topics, right? In the sense of, okay, who am I going to interview next? What should I do national? Should I do local? It's been, so how do you come up with different, especially like on your podcast, how do you come up with a, issues list of who you're going to talk to and, what direction you're going to go in any particular season, if you will, of it?
Well, if your audience is other real estate agents,
Yeah.
and your goal is to interview people, you're going to run out of people fast.
Hmm.
We did this. I mean, one of the first arms of our real estate media company was the Overask podcast that I did with Matt Leonetti. And we published 100 something episodes. We didn't miss a week. Maybe we missed 1 week, but we ran out of people to talk to. I mean, there's always new people coming up, but
Sure.
when it's very guest dependent, it's burdensome. It's difficult. It's hard to schedule people. It's hard to come up with interview questions. And much there's so many different podcasts and people pulling attention away from different real estate agents that it's really tough. Like it's great that you're doing it, but it becomes really difficult to find the topics to talk about. We would always do it like, what skill do real estate agents want to learn? Is
Hmm.
it Instagram strategy? Okay, then we had 15 different agents to talk about how to create hyper local content, how to go viral, how to create memes. Like we covered all those topics, and it was kind of YouTube, how to create YouTube. What's the best way to title it? What are the best thumbnails? Then it was kind of, we did some on geographic farming. We did some on mailers. We did some on basically any way that an agent could generate leads or increase their engagement on social media, and really went it from what skill do people want to learn? Then let's find the guest for that skill. But I'm telling you, it's tough. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna, I don't know how long you've been doing the podcast, but once you get through about 20 episodes and you're being like, who the hell did I interview? This industry is so incestuous too. Everyone's heard everybody talk. Everyone listening to this has probably heard all the bullshit that I'm talking about today.
Yeah.
They probably
Yeah.
hate me at this point. You probably hate me.
No, no, no. So I've never, I've followed your Instagram stuff, but I've never really followed any of your podcasts or anything like that,
Ah, so you do
right?
hate me. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, okay. And just, I've been doing it about 4 to 5 years. I'm over 100 right now. I did all when it's so interesting, like what I realized, like the first couple of years I was doing this, the things that are interesting to me are not necessarily in my audience. Like I interviewed pretty much all the CEOs of like tech companies, which I think that's super cool. It's like kind of how I built this for real estate. And, if I have a local top producing agent, that does way better. So what is your podcast? You have a podcast now, right?
Yeah, we have a bunch on the BAM network. My specific one is the Walkthrough podcast. So that's real estate marketing. So the smart thing, so Overask podcast was also a real estate marketing podcast. So it was Matt Leonetti and myself. We were co-hosts and we would interview someone about their specific skill, how they reached 10,000 followers, how they went viral, how they turned, how they use YouTube thumbnails to attract leads, stuff like that. Very specific, skill driven. Now it's more what's happening in real estate marketing from a news perspective. So we check off different topics called the walkthrough. So if Instagram has a new algorithmic update, or you could add more captions, or this sounds pathetic actually. No, it's more than that. It's not can you add more captions? It's
Yeah.
real estate marketing news. So we do a marketer of the week. We do what's happening on social media. We give out, what's working for us that week. So content strategy for real estate agents. And then we also kind of interview specific agents with the skill set. So it's almost like a mesh between the Overask podcast and like a straight news podcast.
Gotcha. And when you look at what real estate agents are doing and like what are some common mistakes real estate agents do when they're posting and trying to grow their following and just become more relevant on social media?
I think a lot of agents post content just to post content because they've heard so many people say you got to post content and they feel and look like hostages. And you can see it when they're like, here are 3 home buying mistakes that first time home buyers make.
Yeah.
Or here are the 5 reasons why you should list your house before this. And they're just reading a script or regurgitating what they think they're supposed to talk about. And they look dead behind the eyes. And it's content that nobody wants to see, right? Most people who follow a real estate agent on Instagram are not in the process of buying or selling a home. So why would I want to see home staging tips for random people if that's not what I'm interested in? It's when you're actually producing content of something that you're knowledgeable about, not necessarily just real estate stuff, but what are you actually passionate about? I know that sounds kind of cliche, but it's more the hyper local content. Those are the agents that are actually hitting every buyer, seller, people who aren't interested in buying the next 5, 10 years, but want to follow you because you're giving actual information and news that is happening in your local market. So a couple examples, there's a woman at Real, Alyssa Carnut, who is amazing, who's always covering everything that's happening in Spokane, whether it's a new Chick-fil-A, it's a new Topgolf that's opening up, a new development. Like you're hearing the actual news from the real estate agent and you can see the passion through the different shops and coffee shops and everything that she's talking about. You could always intertwine real estate within that. So you could say, I just went to a bar down the street. It's my favorite brewery. Here's why. By the way, I actually have a listing 5 minutes away. It's in this neighborhood. Comment your breweries below. So then you're actually talking about something that you're passionate about, something that you would experience, and then you could wrap real estate in at the back end.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I'm always interested in like, what new restaurants are in town, what new rooftop bars or stuff like that, and kind of have to go after what really is interesting because, I see the same thing all the time. Like, what do you need to do before you list your home, right? It's like you go to YouTube for that, and speaking of that, how do you differentiate or how do you recommend you differentiate a person's content when it comes from like Instagram to YouTube?
Well, yeah, YouTube's the long form content, so it's very focused on SEO and title,
Yeah.
right? So you should come up with the title and the thumbnail almost before you produce the actual content. And you have to be hyper conscious of how people are searching. Instagram's actually kind of going this direction too, where more people are searching on Instagram and TikTok for specific things. Like if I
Yeah.
were to search Santa Monica real estate, you would want to have those keywords in some of your posts. But YouTube is more about learning. So that's
Yeah.
where you would actually want to do more of that content
Right.
that we're talking about from the education standpoint. But that's still boring too. You don't necessarily want to just keep doing first time home buying tips. You could do elongated versions of the hyper local content, right? You could
Yeah.
talk about, you could do the restaurant owner interviews. I know those are kind of cliche at this point, but just elongating the Instagram content where people actually start to build that trust, and you get way more conversions on YouTube also.
Yeah. So when you look at where you've gone, so at some point you realize you've got an audience of real estate agents, and how did you decide that you were going to turn that into a business, capitalize on it, and what does that look like for, someone that may be interested in working with you? How do they do that? Well, first of all, tell me the history first, and then yeah.
Yeah, it all happened very naturally. So the progression was just produce funny pieces of content every single day on the Broke Agent. So it was publish at least 2 or 3 feed posts on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, 5 to 8 Instagram stories, and just keep the momentum going, keep building the audience, because at some point I will do something with this audience. I didn't know when, right? From
Yeah.
2015 to 2019, it was skits, it was YouTube, it was memes, it was reels. It was just, well, reels didn't come out till 2020, but everything I was doing was just, I'm having fun and I'm producing content because I want to build this audience, and eventually I will know what to do with it. That moment finally came,
Yeah.
but it, it was important for me to figure out the blend between humor and then how do I actually provide value to the industry. There's obviously humor, or there's obviously value in humor, but what really made me make that jump was that I could actually wrap in everything I know about marketing into what I'm doing with the Broke Agent. So actually teaching agents how to capitalize on social media. So I created a Instagram hacks ebook, I want to say in 2019, just to kind of see what the appetite was like there for something like that. And it was how I built my following on the Broke Agent, how to go from 0 to 10,000 followers, all the exact strategies that I use. And it was 25 pages, a really potent PDF with pictures and all these incredible strategies. And I got like 5 or 6 thousand downloads on that ebook, and that's 5 or 6 thousand emails in my database. And that's when the aha moment came, where I was like, "Holy shit! There is a huge appetite for this." And keep in mind, real estate is always 5 or 6 years behind other industries in terms of adapting to social media or adopting these different platforms. They're always technologically behind other industries.
Yeah.
So I was kind of at the peak, and it wasn't just me. There was other people doing this too, of talking about engagement strategy and Instagram strategy, and what I do to produce more content and how to come up with content ideas. The pandemic hit, and that's when Matt Leonetti and I started kind of the first arm of the media company with the Overask podcast. And that was, we know a decent amount about marketing. Let's have other experts in the real estate space that are actually selling a ton of real estate by using some of these strategies. So that was the podcast. Then we had the email list. And then I started having sponsorships and affiliates with a company called Coffee and Contracts, and was producing funny content for them, for agents to brand and customize. And then I partnered with my friend Byron Lazine to create BAM Media. And now we're basically the Barstool Sports of real estate, with 4 blogs per day. We have 5 podcasts. We have an email that we send every day, conferences, virtual events, and now it's Real Deal Media Company.
So, okay, and how do you monetize that though? Are you monetizing it through the sponsors and the ads?
Yeah, sponsors, advertisements, but we also have our BAMX platform, which is our exclusive membership, where we have 2,500 plus agents who are paying a monthly or annual fee. And
Yeah.
that gives them instant access to our social media content, where they get 3 customizable posts every single week. They get video scripts, blogs. They get an email to send to their database every single week, and everything is very timely. Then we have courses, trainings, masterminds. It's so much in that BAMX platform. We just moved it over to school 2 weeks ago, and it is growing like crazy. So that's our
Yeah.
main source of monetization. And then, of course, conferences and events as well.
Yeah, and it goes back to your Instagram hacks. I mean, I looked at it this morning. I was doing some research, and it's all 14 tips, and then you had the link to BAMX, and I love this stuff because basically, like, you can take that strategy and apply it to, I mean, in any funnel, right? I mean, I do the same thing in a certain extent. I've got, 6,000 email addresses of agents. Most of them are local. And, but you could do that strategy like agents can do that if they can get the right kind of content that will attract someone to get that ebook, right? And that ebook maybe different forms of that. Maybe it's, moving guide to Texas or moving guide to Austin or, Houston versus Austin. Download the reasons why you might want to pick either one. I mean, there's so many different ideas. And, I love marketing funnels. I think probably when you're brainstorming this, it's for an agent, like what I'd recommend, and tell me if I'm wrong or you have any variation of this, is like, come up with an ebook list of ideas, write down 5 or 10, and then kind of crowdsource it to see what people think would be a better one. What do you think?
Ebooks is kind of like a scary word to people where it feels like a salesy thing that you're doing.
Sure.
They're basically lead magnets, right? Where someone exchanges their email for valuable information. It could be something as simple as a first time foodie's guide to Santa Monica, right? And it's a blog post essentially, or it's a list of 10 of your favorite restaurants. But you want to hit different demographics with these lead magnets. So you would want one for first time home buyers, maybe one for single mothers, maybe one for first time sellers, one for people looking for investment properties. So you kind of hit all these different demographics or different people in the stages of their real estate journey where maybe they're not even interested in buying or selling real estate, but they like all of your content about the best coffee shops and everything. And you say, hey, download this foodie's guide to Santa Monica. I'm going to tell you all my favorite restaurants and there's a couple discounts in there as low. Drop your email. Like
Yeah.
that's going to get you emails, right? And that's a fun piece of content you could produce. So anytime you're writing a blog, think maybe I could turn this into an actual PDF, put it behind a lead magnet, and collect people's emails from it.
Yeah.
Emails is the number one thing because in marketing for us, because it's not dependent on a social media algorithm, and
Yep.
we own that data because your Instagram, your Facebook, your Twitter, your TikTok could get shut down tomorrow. And also, if the algorithm doesn't feed your post for whatever reason, your hook sucks, or you spent 2 hours making a piece of content and it flops, that sucks, right? Your
Yeah.
email gets delivered every single time. And
Yep.
an email actually converts way more than any of these social content because these are all scroll first platforms. You just want a dopamine hit.
Yep.
First time home buyers, I don't want to see that. I'll see you later. But if you get that in an email, maybe you're actually reading that information a little bit more.
Yeah. And where do you sell real estate still?
No,
Thank God, right?
thank the Lord. The entire goal of the broke agent was to stop being a broke agent, get out of selling real estate.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
always 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Truthfully, I never actually committed. There's maybe like a 3 month period in 2019 and kind of leading up to the pandemic where I was like, shit, maybe like I'm actually a real estate agent. I actually kind of know what I'm doing, at least in this small pocket in Brentwood and Santa Monica. There was a brief moment there where I thought maybe I go on this, but the content just kept pulling me away. Even though the two fed each other, right? I got a lot of my content ideas from actually selling real estate.
Okay. And so what are your plans for the broke agent moving forward? Anything new coming up that you want to get into?
I mean, we just moved our BAMX platform over to school. So anybody listening to this, I highly recommend joining that. We have conferences coming up in the near future, probably Q1 of 2026. We had our first ever conference called BAM Media in Vegas last October with 350 agents, which was unbelievable. But really, it's growing the media company,
Yeah.
growing the audience, getting more people to listen to our podcasts, partnering with other creators to be voices in the industry. And I think we've done a really good job at that in terms of partnering with funny content creators and people who have different perspectives and actual practitioners in the business, not people that are kind of, pontificating on a panel or that's maybe a journalist for another media company. All of the people that produce content for us actually sell real estate, besides me, and know what they're talking about in terms of the skills that they are actually regurgitating to people. So the goal is just to grow the media company to the biggest media company in real estate.
Yeah. And so you did your first conference. I mean, we just did our third. It's a beast, right?
Hell, yeah. I don't throw a conference if you're listening to this. I mean, it was amazing because it was just so fun seeing the actual community in person. It
Yeah.
was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life to see. Oh my God, 10 years ago, I was just posting on the Broke Agent. Now there's 350 people who traveled to Las Vegas to see this group of people that we have collected together to produce value. It was awesome, but obviously the build up to a conference takes so much emotional, physical stress out of you because your entire life revolves around all the little details, dealing with the showrunners, dealing with the slides that you will never get from the speakers,
Yeah.
promoting the tickets. It's hell, but it's worth it when it happens because it's the biggest advertisement you could possibly have for your brand.
Yeah.
All the social capital you get from it, all of the people talking about Bam Mania, the FOMO that it induces in the industry, 100% worth it, and that's why we're gonna do it again.
Yeah, this last one. I was just like, oh, it's high after it was so fun. But you're right. The last year, so my first kind of foray in the conferences that I go to year after year was with Curator and Chris Smith and Jimmy Mackin and Chris Jimmy Mackin was our keynote speaker last year. And first thing he said is like, yeah, Ryan would go to my conferences, and it's kind of like that guy. It's kind of like it's better to have a friend with a boat than to have a boat, you know. So
100%. Now, I mean, I've been to so many conferences, and I totally agree with that because I love just going to conferences and partying with people.
me too.
If I speak at one, great. But again, seeing our community physically in person, from BAM to BAMX, or from Broke Agent to BAM to BAMX to our membership to actually people in person, was such an amazing experience. And people want more of it too. They said it's
Yeah.
the most valuable conference they've been to. So we will be throwing more.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I think this is a note for a tip for agents, right? I have been doing conferences for 15 years now, real estate conferences. And I think it's been the most valuable thing of my entire career. And that's not necessarily to say that the content I get at every conference is valuable. It's the connections, right? It's be able to talk to someone in a different market that's doing something really important and that you might be able to get, create an alliance of friends, if you will, that are just the top of their game, sharing tips and tricks that they probably would not tell every single person in their own market. And I think agents don't really realize how valuable that is.
Mhm.
You
Yeah, I
know?
totally agree. That's how most of my friendships have been formed. That's how I met Byron. My partner was at a conference in 2016. So
Yeah. Are you going? Do you have anything you're going to this year?
nothing on the books. We are in grind mode,
Yeah.
and I have worn myself too thin in the past in terms of going to a bunch of. I mean, they suck the life out of you. You go to I mean, Tom Ferry, he has amazing conferences, but you go to one of those and you're talking to people and drinking for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
It destroys you. I come home, I feel like I just went to Coachella or Cabo at spring break, and my wife's always like, "What the hell just happened to you? I thought you were at a real estate conference in Dallas." And I'm like sick and on the floor for 2 straight days. You always get COVID every single time you go to a conference. You put on like 10 pounds, you look ridiculous. Like I don't know. I need to focus on our content. I'll probably still go to a couple this year. I'm speaking at one of Sharon's conferences actually on the 26th in Orange County, but that's just a drive, so that'll be easy.
Oh, is that this month? Oh, cool. Well, I think you and I probably have a lot in common because you described exactly how I feel when I come back from a conference. It's
It's a great brand builder. It's a great networking. And I'm not a real estate agent. So
Yeah.
now I'm learning from the perspective of how do we throw a conference that is like this or better than this, or like what can we take away from it? Who can I meet? Who can I talk to? Are there sponsors there? But initially I was just going because I was a real estate agent, but I was also going as the broke agent to party and hang out with people. But
yeah, yeah.
it it's fun. I mean, I love them. They're a blast.
Me too. I like them better than a guy's trip to Vegas. Actually, I really do. Just
I don't know
having-
about that. I
Well,
prefer that.
well, I really hope that we can get our scheduling right next year. We'd love to have you at our conference next year. And where can people find you?
At the broke agent on Instagram, on everything, but go to nowbam.com. That's all of our free content. We truly produce what I think is the most valuable, entertaining content in real estate. We'd love for you to listen to any of our podcasts. And if you want to become a member of BAMX, you can find that on nowbam.com as well. So we'd love to see you in there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.